The courtroom smelled like old wood and cheap coffee, the kind that burns your tongue but somehow doesn't wake you up. Judge Harper sat at the bench, his face as blank as a poker player's. He glanced down at the file in front of him before looking up at Nathan Carter, who stood confidently at the plaintiff's table. Nathan, wearing a suit that screamed, "I'm winning this," adjusted his tie and cleared his throat dramatically. "Your Honor," he began, with the kind of fake sincerity you usually hear in political campaign ads, "I'm here because my daughter, Lily, deserves a stable environment. Her mother, Sarah, has shown time and again that she's incapable of providing that." Sarah, sitting at the defense table, didn't flinch, but her hand tightened around the tissue she'd been clutching for the last 10 minutes. She looked calm on the outside, but inside, her thoughts raced. Neglectful? Incapable? This man has some nerve. Judge Harper tapped his pen against the desk. "Mr. Carter, do you have specific examples to support your claim?" "Of course, Your Honor," Nathan said, straightening his posture. "Sarah often leaves Lily alone for hours while she, I don't know, pursues her hobbies. She's irresponsible, Your Honor. I have no choice but to seek full custody." Sarah finally spoke, her voice steady but with an edge. "That's not true, and you know it, Nathan. I've never left Lily alone." Nathan smirked, the kind of smirk that makes you want to punch someone. "Oh, really? What about last month when you went to that yoga retreat?" "That was for one weekend, and Lily was with my mom," Sarah shot back, her cheeks flushing. "Enough," Judge Harper interrupted, raising a hand. "Let's not turn this into a shouting match. Mrs. Carter, I'll hear your side after Mr. Carter finishes his statement." Nathan leaned against the table, his expression smug. "Your Honor, I just want what's best for my daughter. I want her to grow up in a safe, loving home." Sarah bit her lip, trying not to let his words get to her. It wasn't just the lies, it was the ease with which he told them. Like he'd been rehearsing this speech in front of a mirror. Judge Harper turned his attention to the corner of the room where Lily sat, swinging her legs back and forth. She wore a pink dress with a bow that Sarah had tied that morning. Her blonde hair framed a face that was far too serious for an 8-year-old. "Lily," the judge said gently, "how are you doing today?" Lily looked up, her big blue eyes meeting his. "I'm okay," she said softly. The judge smiled slightly. "That's good to hear. Is there anything you'd like to say? This is a safe place, and you can tell us how you feel." Lily hesitated, her hands gripping the edge of her chair. She glanced at her mom, who gave her a reassuring nod. Then she stood up. "Daddy is lying," she said, her voice clear and steady. The room froze. Even the court reporter stopped typing. Nathan's face drained of color. "Lily, sweetheart, you don't." "I do understand," Lily interrupted, her voice rising slightly. "You're lying about Mommy. She's not the one who leaves me alone. You are." Sarah's jaw dropped, and for a moment, she wasn't sure whether to cry or laugh. Judge Harper raised an eyebrow. "Lily, can you explain what you mean?" Lily took a deep breath, her small fists clenched at her sides. "Daddy tells people Mommy doesn't take care of me, but that's not true. Mommy works a lot, but she's always there for me. Daddy," she paused, her lip trembling. "Daddy leaves me alone when he goes out with Miss Vanessa." The collective gasp in the courtroom was almost theatrical. Nathan stammered, his confident facade crumbling. "That's not true," he blurted. "She's just a child. She doesn't know what she's talking about." "I do know," Lily shouted back, her voice trembling but determined. "You said not to tell anyone, but I saw you kissing her, and you told me to play on my tablet so I wouldn't bother you." Judge Harper leaned back in his chair, his expression unreadable. "Mr. Carter, is there any truth to what your daughter is saying?" Nathan's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. "Your Honor, she's confused. Kids make things up all the time." Lily wasn't done. "I'm not making it up. I took pictures." Sarah blinked. "Wait, what?" Nathan paled. "Lily, no." "Yes," Lily said firmly, pulling out a small tablet from her backpack. "I took pictures because I was scared no one would believe me." The judge motioned for the bailiff to take the tablet. Nathan looked like he might faint as the photos appeared on the monitor. There they were, Nathan and a woman with bright red lipstick, holding hands and laughing. In one picture, Lily's favorite stuffed bunny sat in the background, forgotten on the couch. The courtroom was silent except for the faint hum of the monitor. "Well," Judge Harper said dryly, "it seems like Mr. Carter has some explaining to do." Sarah bit her lip to keep from smiling. Lily looked up at her mom and whispered, "Did I do okay?" Sarah bent down, pulling her into a tight hug. "You did perfect, baby. Absolutely perfect." Nathan Carter had been sweating before, but now it looked like someone had turned on a sprinkler inside his suit. The tablet, the little device he had once given to Lily as a Christmas gift, was now his undoing. The courtroom watched in silence as the images appeared on the monitor. There he was, Nathan Carter, holding hands with Miss Vanessa, her crimson lipstick unmistakable. In another picture, he was kissing her in the living room. Lily's favorite stuffed bunny innocently perched on the couch in the background. Judge Harper folded his hands and stared at the monitor, then back at Nathan. "Mr. Carter, do you recognize these photos?" Nathan's lawyer coughed, leaning over to whisper something, but Nathan waved him off, his confidence replaced by pure panic. "Your Honor," Nathan stammered, "I can explain." "Oh, I'd love to hear it," the judge said, his tone dripping with sarcasm. "By all means, enlighten us." Nathan fumbled for words. "It's not what it looks like. Vanessa is... she's just a family friend." Lily, still standing in front of the room, crossed her arms and frowned. "Family friends don't kiss like that," she said, her voice matter of fact. A ripple of laughter swept through the room, despite the serious situation. Even the bailiff had to turn away to hide a smirk. Sarah tried to stay composed, but a tiny grin tugged at her lips. Judge Harper leaned back in his chair. "Mr. Carter, your daughter has presented some pretty compelling evidence. Do you have anything else to say?" Nathan opened his mouth, but his lawyer finally stepped in. "Your Honor, my client was merely seeking companionship during a difficult time," he said, trying to smooth things over. "This does not reflect on his ability to parent." Sarah couldn't hold back anymore. "Are you serious right now?" she said, standing up. "This man is accusing me of being neglectful, and he's the one leaving our daughter alone so he can play house with his girlfriend?" "Objection," Nathan's lawyer snapped. "Overruled," Judge Harper said immediately. "Mrs. Carter, continue." Sarah turned to Nathan, her voice sharp. "Do you remember what Lily said when you gave her that tablet? You told her it was so she could always stay connected to her amazing dad. Well, congratulations, Nathan. She stayed connected, all right? Connected enough to catch you red-handed." Nathan glared at her, his jaw tightening. "You don't get to judge me, Sarah. You're not perfect." "Oh, I never claimed to be," Sarah shot back. "But at least I don't use my kid as a cover for my bad decisions." The tension in the room was thick enough to cut with a knife. Lily tugged on Sarah's sleeve, her voice breaking the moment. "Mommy, can I sit down now?" Sarah's face softened instantly. "Of course, sweetheart. You've done enough." Lily walked back to her seat, her head held high. The courtroom watched her, a mix of admiration and disbelief in their eyes. Judge Harper rubbed his temples, letting out a deep sigh. "Mr. Carter, let me be perfectly clear. This court takes allegations of neglect very seriously, but what I've seen today tells me that you are far from the responsible parent you claim to be." Nathan's lawyer tried to interject, but the judge held up a hand. "Save it. Unless you've got a Hail Mary in your briefcase, this case isn't going the way your client hoped." Nathan slumped in his seat, his confidence now completely deflated. He looked over at Sarah, who met his gaze with a steely determination. As the judge began wrapping up the proceedings, Sarah leaned over to her lawyer, whispering, "Is it bad that I'm enjoying this just a little bit?" Her lawyer smirked. "Not at all. You've earned it." The court adjourned for the day, and as people began filing out, a low murmur of conversation filled the air. The court reporter, who had remained impressively stoic throughout the ordeal, leaned over to the bailiff. "This is better than Netflix," she whispered. Nathan, still sitting at the plaintiff's table, stared at the empty monitor, his face a mix of anger and embarrassment. Sarah walked past him, holding Lily's hand. "Sarah," he called out, his voice low. She stopped but didn't turn around. "What, Nathan?" "This isn't over," he said through gritted teeth. Sarah turned her head slightly, her expression calm but firm. "Oh, it's over, Nathan. You just don't know it yet." With that, she walked out of the courtroom, her daughter's hand firmly in hers. Lily looked up at her mom as they stepped into the sunlight outside. "Mommy, can we get pizza?" Sarah laughed, the tension finally breaking. "Pizza, ice cream, whatever you want, baby. You were a rock star today." Lily grinned. "Can I tell Grandma what happened?" Sarah hesitated, then smiled. "You can tell her," the edited version. As they headed to the car, Sarah felt a weight lift off her shoulders. Nathan could lie all he wanted, but the truth had a funny way of coming out, especially when an 8-year-old was the one telling it. Later, Nathan Carter sat at the plaintiff's table, staring blankly at the monitor where his mistakes had been broadcast for the entire courtroom. The images of him and Vanessa were seared into his mind, and his lawyer's hushed advice now sounded like distant static. Judge Harper, a man whose patience had clearly run out, tapped his gavel. Mr. Carter, let me be perfectly clear. Your actions demonstrate a level of irresponsibility that this court cannot ignore. You're here accusing Mrs. Carter of neglect, but your own behavior paints a very different picture. Nathan shifted uncomfortably. Your Honor, I? Save it, Harper interrupted sharply. The evidence speaks for itself. He glanced at Sarah. Mrs. Carter, do you have any final statements before I make my ruling? Sarah stood, smoothing the hem of her skirt. She glanced at Lily, who gave her a small, encouraging nod. Turning to the judge, Sarah's voice was steady but carried a sharp edge. Your Honor, all I've ever wanted is what's best for Lily. She's my world, and I've worked hard to give her a stable, loving home. Nathan's lies today prove that his concern isn't about Lily. It's about control. I'm not perfect, but I will always put my daughter first. Nathan's lawyer stood quickly, attempting damage control. Your Honor, my client deeply regrets any misunderstanding. Misunderstanding? Sarah snapped, her voice cutting through the room. Leaving an 8-year-old alone while you're out playing house with your girlfriend isn't a misunderstanding. It's negligence. The courtroom murmured in agreement. Even the bailiff gave a subtle nod. Judge Harper raised a hand, silencing the room. I've heard enough. He glanced at Nathan, who looked like a deer caught in headlights. Mr. Carter, your behavior not only undermines your credibility, but also raises serious concerns about your judgment as a parent. Nathan's face turned a deep shade of red. Your Honor, I love my daughter. This is being blown way out of proportion. Blown out of proportion? Harper's voice dropped, cold and measured. Let me be clear, Mr. Carter. This court doesn't take lightly to parents using their children as pawns in their personal vendettas. The photos, the testimony, it all speaks volumes. My ruling is final. Full custody is awarded to Mrs. Carter. A wave of relief washed over Sarah. She sat down, tears pooling in her eyes as Lily reached over and grabbed her hand. Nathan slammed his hands on the table, leaning toward the judge. This isn't fair. She's not better than me. She's just better at playing the victim. Judge Harper's gavel came down hard, silencing him. One more outburst, Mr. Carter, and I'll hold you in contempt. Do not test me. Nathan's lawyer placed a hand on his shoulder, whispering something frantically, but Nathan shrugged him off, glaring at Sarah. As the court adjourned, Nathan approached Sarah near the door. This isn't over, he hissed, his voice low and venomous. Sarah didn't flinch. Instead, she smiled sweetly. Oh, Nathan, it's over. The only thing you've proven today is that Lily deserves better. He opened his mouth to retort, but Lily stepped forward, her voice cutting through the tension. Daddy, she said, looking up at him with innocent yet piercing eyes, maybe you should stop lying. It's not working for you. The courtroom door creaked open, and the bailiff chuckled softly, pretending to cough. Nathan looked like he had swallowed a lemon, his mouth opening and closing without a word. Sarah took Lily's hand, guiding her out of the courtroom. As they stepped into the sunlight, Lily glanced up at her mom. Did we win? She asked, her tone cautious. Sarah crouched down to her level, brushing a strand of blonde hair from Lily's face. We didn't just win, sweetie. We told the truth, and that's the most important thing. Lily tilted her head thoughtfully. Does that mean I can have extra ice cream? Sarah laughed, the sound light and genuine, breaking the tension of the day. You know what? After today, you can have as much ice cream as you want. As they walked toward the parking lot, Lily looked back at the courthouse. Do you think Daddy's going to be mad? Sarah paused, choosing her words carefully. He might be upset, but that's okay. He'll figure things out. Lily nodded, seemingly satisfied with that answer. Can I tell Grandma everything that happened? Sarah grinned. Let's maybe give her the short version, okay? They reached the car, and as Sarah buckled Lily into her seat, her phone buzzed with a text. It was from her best friend. How did court go? Sarah typed back quickly. Nathan imploded. Lily was amazing. Ice cream now. Call later. As they drove off, Lily hummed to herself in the back seat, clutching her stuffed bunny. Sarah glanced at her in the rearview mirror and smiled. For the first time in a long time, she felt like things were going to be okay. Back inside the courthouse, Nathan's lawyer rubbed his temples. "Nathan," he muttered, "you really need to learn when to quit." Nathan glared at him. "She's not better than me." The lawyer sighed, packing up his briefcase. "No, but she's a hell of a lot smarter. And so is your kid." Nathan slumped into his seat, defeated. Somewhere in the background, the court reporter muttered to the bailiff, "This was better than cable."